All right, what does it mean to fast? Well, the first thing is, you talked about this, so I won't spend a lot of time with it, is the niyyah, the intention. The intention has to exist, and it should be made daily, and ideally the intention should be present beginning at the evening time. So for example, when you break your fast for Ramadan, you eat your dinner, or particularly when you break your fast and then you pray your Maghrib prayer, after that prayer, you should then make your intention to fast for the next day. So the intention is that commitment in your heart, in your conscience, that you are going to continue to do that act again. So the intention has to be there. Okay. And one last thing about the intention is that the function of the niyyah, of the intention, is to change a normal habit, or to change an act from being a habit to being worship. Right? So anybody can not eat or not drink for several hours. Outwardly, if somebody was to hang out with me in Ramadan and we were to skip lunch, it's the same thing externally. Right? But internally, why I'm not eating lunch and why that other person isn't eating lunch are very, very different things. And that is what the intention does. It distinguishes adah from ibadah. It distinguishes norms and habits from ritual, worship, and practice. Okay. 2. The second thing that constitutes fasting is abstinence of the stomach. Anything, and not just the stomach is the term that the jurists use, but the absence of anything entering the body cavity in general. So, obviously no food or drink, and also no flavored substances. Even if it's like flavored substance that mixes with your saliva, right? So, for example, no food or drink means obviously simply no food or drink. However, some scholars have made exceptions for if you're cooking a meal for guests, or you're cooking for someone that has a particular diet. You're allowed to taste the food, but you're not allowed to swallow. Okay? You're allowed to do that, but what does allow mean? Allowed means it's preferable for you not to do that. But if you have to do it, or you feel compelled to do it, right? I love the examples in the medieval Islamic law books on this. The standard example in almost every textbook is it's okay for the wife who has a mean husband to taste the food so he doesn't get mad at her, right? I love that patriarchal example. Okay. Can you go back one, please? No flavored substances. So, for example, you cannot chew gum when you're fasting. Arguably, yes, you're not eating, you're not swallowing the gum, you're not ingesting the gum. But the point is, there's a flavor there, and you're swallowing that flavor, so it fits under the paradigm of drinking. Okay? Similarly, if you are sewing, let's use a simple example. Sewing, and you're threading a needle, and you put the needle in your mouth and take it out, and the thread has saliva on it, you can't put that thread back in your mouth. Okay? So anything that is, any liquid or food that is external from your body, you cannot ingest that no matter how small. Okay? Even if it's your own saliva. So anything with flavor. Toothpaste. So if you need to brush your teeth, obviously you do, then you brush your teeth before Fajr. Or at the very least, you don't swallow the toothpaste. So you brush your teeth and then you rinse your mouth very well so that the flavor of the toothpaste is not ingested inside of it. Okay? All right. Good. And no smoking. 2, 3, abstinence of the sexual organs. Do you have any kids in this room? No. Okay. Yes, we do. Anybody under 13?
Yeah.
Tell me. All right, so we'll make this a PG presentation. I just want to know. So, okay. So, 6-year-old, so I'm trying to picture my 6-year-old daughter in the room. Yes?
Just seeing what we talked about last time.
What's that?
Talking about pornography last time.
I can hear now, Papa, what's that? Wait 20 years for it. Yes. I'm sorry, didn't hear you. Yes, you can use mouthwash, just rinse your mouth very well. So you should not swallow the mouthwash. Now, let me clarify something else. When I say you cannot swallow the mouthwash, you cannot swallow the toothpaste. Swallow means you should not intentionally, knowingly do so. Okay? If you are using mouthwash or brushing your teeth, and then you rinse your mouth and you think it's all done, and all of a sudden you swallow some, that's considered excused and you're okay. You haven't broken your fast. Okay? But you should not intentionally, knowingly ingest that. Okay? And if you do it like in the middle of the day and you forget you're fasting, that's not a problem either. You still continue your fast. Yes? That's what you're here for. You're mom, right? So I have a parental consent from you, right? All right, all right. Okay. How old are your ladies back there? 11 and 10. And 11 and 10, and the third one?
Well,
They're 12. Oh, mashallah. Okay. Tamam. Very good. Okay, let's continue. Hold on, I have another one. Oh, we're still on this. All right. So, what does no sexual contact mean? This is a very technical term. So I'll just be as blunt, but with decorum. It means sexual intercourse. Actual intercourse, not foreplay. It doesn't mean foreplay. In other words, if somebody engages in foreplay, that does not break the fast, but they're on like the edge of the sunnah. Okay? But it does not break the fast. So no sexual conduct means no actual penetration. That's what that means, penetration. Anything outside of actual penetration doesn't break the fast, but then we get into a different area that we'll talk about a little later, inshallah. So technically speaking, it's absolutely permissible for a husband and wife to embrace each other, to kiss each other, to rub each other, to be close to each other, to express affection to each other. Even there's an opinion from one of the fuqaha, one of the scholars, that says if the husband kisses his wife and he ingests some of her saliva, that's okay. That's an opinion. But if he ingests somebody else's saliva, that's not okay. That's actually in a Hanafi fitna. It's really interesting.
We're at NYU.
Yeah, so it could happen. So anything outside of that, even if that interaction, that affection that is being expressed between the husband and wife, even if it leads to an actual orgasm, right? Even if it goes that far, it is not the same as the ruling for what happens for sexual penetration. It's very different. Okay? All right. So here, no sexual contact while fasting means penetration. Kissing is permissible for those people who it's not a problem for in terms of sexual desire. However, there are levels for fasting. There are degrees of fasting. At the very basic level, the bare minimum is to abstain from all types of food and drink and anything that falls under that category entering the body, and to stay away from any and all forms of sexual activity, be it actual penetration or even lustful touching and things like that. So that's the first basic level. So if somebody if a husband and wife, are being close to each other and being affectionate towards each other during the fasting day in Ramadan, right? Then they're on like the border line, but they haven't committed a crime or they haven't committed a sin. They haven't committed a sin, so there's a difference. Okay, so this is the third level of what constitutes fasting. 3, so 4. Finally, abstinence of the inclinations of the self. whatever your habits were before Ramadan, then in Ramadan is the time to stop those habits. We were talking a little earlier about, electronics. If you're on Facebook all the time, you cannot live without your cell phone, this is the time to take a break from that. This is the time to sort of alter your normal routines and your normal habits and go into a form of retreat from those normal habits and routines that we are plagued with on a yearly basis. Now, the first level of this meaning is you should be mindful of your habits in terms of watching your temper and watching your speech. So the first priority is to control, although the fasting means you don't eat and drink and engage in sexual activity, fasting also means that just like you can withhold yourself from food and you can control those inner desires that relate to carnal activity, you should also be able to be in the habit of practicing withholding your desire when it comes to emotional activity. So that's also fasting. So things that would normally make you mad, you should be a bit more attentive to that and practice withholding your anger. Practice being patient. Practice not reacting in speech and instead acting in speech. Practice not responding to everything that you hear, which fasting helps because your breath starts to change. So talking too much is quite risky in public forums. So that's actually a barakah, a blessing. So doing these, what's called